All right, we are back. Lions fans, you may notice that things are looking a little different. We decided to take advantage of the sunshine today. It's a beautiful summer day here in August. You might hear some splashing going on in the background. Possibly there are children in the pool.
Yes, there's one child in the pool, and she looks like she's freezing her butt off. So,
Anyway, we are going to have a probably shorter show this week. Just going to, run through, talk a little bit about the game this week. We had the final preseason game for the Lions against the Pittsburgh Steelers at Ford Field. We'll run through a bit of that, thoughts on that, and then we are going to actually give our rundown on predictions for the 53-man roster, who's going to make the cut, who's not. Maybe talk about some guys who are injured that might land on a list that keeps them exempt from the roster or whatever, and maybe talk about some practice squad guys we think we might take
yeah, hopefully
off of
they,
our cuts if they
hopefully
clear
some
waivers.
of those hurt guys come back, and we'll be all right.
Yeah,
with them,
yeah.
So.
So, without further ado, we might as well just jump right in, huh?
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of throw out there with the game. We're just gonna, like you said, say just something real quick about it. And a lot of this will reflect on the guys that we pick. Obviously, we're basing it on camp as well as all the preseason games, but obviously we got a big win for preseason, and by big win I mean we literally Ford Field literally sold out of tickets as well as standing room only, completely sold out. Lions fans, awesome as they always are, caused two false starts, in a preseason game, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, there was some good things, there were some bad things, and we'll go through that as we go. But yeah, the Lions squeaked out the win, and this will ultimately kind of decide what the 53 looks like.
Yeah, I think we saw some good stuff. Hendon Hooker, I think, ultimately had a good day.
Stock
He
rising.
was shaky. I will say to start, he was struggling holding the ball too long, and that resulted in 3 straight sacks, and that wasn't great. I will say probably not all his fault. Obviously, he's playing with a less than ideal receiver group, and if they can't get open, then he's got no choice but to hold on to the ball.
Yeah, second string offensive line was rough again to start that game.
Yep,
So
yep. So there was that. I think he also had an interception. Of course, that one not his fault at all. The receiver throttled down on his route, and it caused a deflection that landed in the hands of none other than Cam Sutton,
yeah,
which I'm sure he was jazzed about that in Ford Field getting an interception. But
yeah, I don't even want to talk about all
I'm going to
that.
ask you to move your phone because I'm blinded right now currently.
Oh, I'm trying to blind you. I put it there on purpose.
So there was that. I don't really think I have much else to talk about. I think the only other guy that really, obviously, I'll say this right now. I didn't watch the game because I was out at Michigan's Adventure, enjoying the amusement park. Um,
I have something to say about that real quick. Actually, uh, I'm the one who makes the ticker every week. And right now we're doing we've got our players of the game. Just so you know, on the ticker, Brendan, it says that your player of the game was Snoopy from Peanuts because you didn't watch the game and you were at Michigan's Adventure.
you're an idiot. You are stupid. Obviously I enjoyed the day there, so I watched highlights and that, and I got the gist of it. The other guy that impressed me obviously was Isaac Ukwu. He continues
Yes,
to
sir.
show out and make his case for this roster. Another, if you want to call it a strip sack this week, he just bulldozed a 300-pound man into the quarterback, and the shoulder pad of the offensive lineman jarred the ball out of the quarterback's hand. So
Strip sack nonetheless.
yes, yes.
Pure power.
I think unless you want to talk about anything else, that's basically the gist of the game. We got a 24 to what was it, 17?
17. Yep.
24-17 win over the Steelers. 2-1 in the preseason. Obviously, we don't really care about the win-loss ratio there. We just want to see the development of the guys and see where people stand. Watch those position battles, and I think we got a good dose of quite a few guys who were on the bubble. So
yeah, I think so too. I think the coaching staff took advantage of some of these guys. Took advantage of this game to see some of these guys, put them on tape and stuff. And I think I think we saw some good things out of some players that we needed to see. So.
Yep. And before we dive in, I just want to say, KT, if you're watching this, taking a swig of some Ruby Red Squirt. So
Yeah,
it's the best
great.
best soda out there. If you're a fan of soda, I would recommend highly.
And I have water. Um, so yeah, and we apologize for the wind that blows through here. We have some wind covers, but they seem to be ever fleeting with the cat that we have in the basement. So
Okay.
they keep going up missing. So
So we will now dive into the meat of the show, really. I mean, that's just going to be running through position groups and talking about who we think is going to make the 53-man roster, who won't make it, and possibly some guys who might end up on the practice squad. So
yep.
I think we kick it off with the offense, and we'll start with the most important position on that offense, and that's quarterback.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and start and say who you have staying essentially?
Yeah, so let me just list. I'm going to do this every time. Starting off, we'll list who we've got on the roster at that position
Yeah, good
currently.
idea.
We've got Jared Goff, who's the unquestioned starter. Behind him, there's Hendon Hooker, Nate Sudfeld, and the newly added Jake Fromm, who, shout out, had a pretty good day in the limited amount of time we saw him in against the Steelers this week.
Yeah.
My keeps there, no question. Jared Goff, of course, he's the guy. He's going to be the guy. He's
Oh, that's
being
weird. You were
paid like
saying
the
he was on
guy.
the bubble.
I never said that.
I know.
Thanks for trying to get me canceled by Lions fans, though. So he's number one. I have Hendon Hooker solidifying himself as quarterback 2 now. Even with some shaky moments in games, he's outperformed anyone else who's played the position for the Lions in the preseason so far. And then, unfortunately, the third quarterback spot I have to give to Nate Sudfeld just because of familiarity in the building. Do I wish that was Jake Fromm? Yes. Do I wish it was literally anybody but Nate Sudfeld? Yes. But unfortunately, he is the veteran presence who's been here for a number of years, so they're going to give him the nod at the third quarterback.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go with mine. Obviously, going to be very close to yours. In fact, it's actually going to be exactly the same. I think that they will actually put Sudfeld in as second string. I think that Hendon Hooker, very close to solidifying that second spot, but I still think Dan Campbell is going to stick with the devil, he's going to stick, he's going to pick his medicine, and he already knows what that is, and it's going to be Sudfeld. Eventually, Hooker's going to take that spot. I don't even know if Sudfeld makes it through the entire season on this roster, but to start the season, the initial 53 is going to be Goff, then Sudfeld, then Hooker.
Well, let's be honest. We're really hoping that neither of those guys see the field anyway.
Correct.
If everything goes well for us, the only way they'll see the field is Jared Goff and the Lions have just beat up the other team so bad that we put in the backups.
And if that's the case, Hooker needs the time, so hopefully they play him over Sudfeld.
Yeah, Sudfeld. I think if he does take that quarterback 2 spot, like you said, I think he is going to work his way out of that job. All it takes is one game where Jared Goff has to miss, God forbid, and they get one look at Sudfeld and see the same Sudfeld they saw in preseason. He's going to make it about a quarter in that game, and then it's going to get turned over to Hendon Hooker.
Yeah, unfortunately, just because Sudfeld's been here, he'll stay here. But I do agree with you. I know you said literally anybody, and I know that was a tongue in cheek, but I really did like what I saw from Jake Fromm, and I actually have heard that he, not a not a starting quarterback caliber guy, but he definitely could be a quarterback 2 on a team or a quarterback 3, very much so. So I hope they take another look at him next year. We'll see.
Yeah. So we'll move into the next position group, which is the backfield behind the quarterback. We'll go running backs. I think we hit skill positions, and then we'll get to the offensive line at the end of the group here. So
this is where it starts getting hard.
New running
Very
backs here, we've got Jake Funk, Jameer Gibbs, Jamar Jefferson, Zonovan Knight, David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds, and Sione Vaki. In my list here, I have one surprise, I think, for you guys, but Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery obviously will be the 1-2 punch starting. Their jobs are secured. I think Sione Vaki already had his job secured being a draft pick this year,
Yeah.
but his preseason showing has made him running back 3 on this roster without a doubt. I think the fourth spot is where you get questionable because it's, do you go with experience? Do you go with a locker room glue guy? Or do you go with a guy that Dan Campbell's been beaming about in the preseason? And I opted to go with the guy that Dan Campbell's been beaming about because I think oftentimes when you get down to those deliberations, it's what guys do you love? What guys are going to make you sick if you let them go and they get picked up by another team? And I think Jamar Jefferson, with 2 touchdowns this week, has to have solidified his spot over Craig Reynolds. I love Craig Reynolds, and I know the locker room loves Craig Reynolds, but he ultimately is not going to help you win games. I hate to say it, but
You got me raising the eyebrows over here.
I think he's got capability of being good, and I think people are too infatuated with the story of Craig Reynolds and the big block against the Buccaneers last year. I think that's that sentimental thing we talked about last week, though, where
You got to put that aside.
you've
It's a
got to put that
business.
aside
Yep.
and talk about the
It's
player and the
business
body
time.
of work.
Yeah, I
And the
get that.
body of work favors Jamar Jefferson, who's been having a great camp. He had finally showed out in the preseason this week, and Dan Campbell has talked in press conferences about how much he loves Jamar Jefferson.
All right, so this is where it starts getting tough for me. So, um, people are gonna be shocked by this. Maybe not if you know the kind of takes that I usually have, but and call me a non-ball knower. That's fine if you want to do that. Man, my mic continues to sound super robotic. I'm sorry, you guys. We're outside, but um, I actually think that we would be better stashing one or two of these guys on the. Hold on, just a second. I'm just making sure that I have what I need. Yeah, on the practice squad, I have us only keeping 3 running backs. Um, and it is going to be Gibbs, Monty, and Vaki, obviously. I do believe Craig ends up on, well, if he's, I don't know if he's able to go on to practice squad.
Yeah, there is. Just because I've been a little bit questionable on what it is, there is. So you get a 17-man practice squad, right?
Yep, yep.
10 of those, you can have. I think 7 of those can be veteran players.
Okay.
Oh wait, sorry. That
But there
of
are
the
some that
17 practice squad players, 10 of those must have 2 or fewer accrued NFL
Okay.
seasons.
Okay.
The other 6 or 7, whatever it is, do not have any limitations and are characterized as veterans.
Gotcha.
So, and then one player. So you get 6 of those, and then one player has to be the NFL's international part of the NFL's international pathway program.
So am I is my feeling are my feelings going to be hurt if Jake Funk is off this team? Again, fun story, really cool. Love the name. Scored a touchdown this last game. If he goes, it's okay. Zonovan Knight, awesome talent, all the talent in the world and abilities in the world to be an NFL running back. Not going to be too hurt if he leaves. Craig Reynolds, I would like to keep on the practice squad somehow, as well as if it works out, Jamar Jefferson. I think we only keep 3, and it's because of the next position group that's coming up. We just need help there.
Okay, so we'll move into wide receivers. Obviously, there was a discrepancy there between running backs for us. We had each of us had a different guy, or he had only 3 backs, and I had Funk, Knight, and Reynolds all not making the team. Wide receivers, we got a big group. Start out, we got Maurice Alexander, Jalen Calhoun, Caden Davis, Darius Fountain, Tom Kennedy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Khalif Raymond, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Isaiah Williams, and Jamison Williams. The obvious ones to keep are going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams, along with Khalif Raymond. Those 3 are locked in, without a doubt, in my mind. This one, I only think one of those guys makes the team out of the rest of that group. I think we go 4 wide receivers, and that's because I think there is a possibility that we're gonna get to our 53-man roster, but there's a chance that one of those guys either gets waived or something happens there. They're going to maneuver it, because I think we're going to make some kind of move to get another wide receiver on this roster, whether it's watching who other teams cut or making a trade like we did with DPJ last year. There's going to be some kind of movement. But the last guy I have making this roster is Isaiah Williams. I think his versatility has shown. He's great in special teams. He's been reliable in receiver. He has at times had trouble with ball security, but I think that'll work itself out with reps. But those are my 4 that I have making the team.
And before I go into mine, I just want to ask you to expand a little bit on what you're getting at, just because this is such an intriguing, this was an intriguing offseason position for us. Obviously, wide receiver has been probably one of the most, kicker was one of them, but this has been one of the most talked about, camp Detroit Lions positions. this year. Do you want to expand on what you mean by the move you think they're going to make? Are you saying you think they're going to
No,
trade
no, no, no.
for?
I don't necessarily have a guy in mind that I think they're going
Oh no,
to.
I'm saying, do you think it's going to be like we trade draft capital for a wide receiver, or we trade a wide receiver for a wide receiver, or what are you getting at? I guess
I
I'm just curious.
I don't know. I think
I'm
if we
gonna put
go
you on
for
the spot.
somebody, it's going to be a late round pick type thing. It's not going to be like a. I don't think we're going to trade anybody unless it's somebody we're getting rid of and it's just a package thing. I
Okay.
just don't see that happening. I know there's been a lot of talks revolving around possibly Justin Ross from the Chiefs either being waived or getting traded out of there if they get an offer for him. Obviously, you'd get to jump the line in the waiver order that way, which is a lot of the reason why trades happen here. I think another one that people have floated around is Terrace Marshall Jr. From Carolina. He's a speedster out of LSU. He's not quite that big body. He is 6'2", but he's not quite that X receiver if that's what you're looking for.
He's kind of a faster Josh Reynolds, honestly.
Yeah,
He just looks
he's a
faster
speedy
than.
guy, and he's only in. I think he's in his like third year professionally, something like that. But Carolina has been quietly shopping him, so it's possible that that's another one. But no, those are the only guys. I think it's going to be. I think they're going to make a move one way or the other for a wide receiver. I think Dan Campbell has already alluded to the fact that they were waiting for a guy to stand out, and I don't think that's happened yet. I think Isaiah Williams has shown ability enough to make the team, but I still don't think he's the kind of receiver they were looking for to
Yeah.
step into that role. They
Right.
were
Right.
hoping for a Darius Fountain or a DPJ to be that guy.
Yeah. And DPJ is definitely not that guy. I didn't see anything from Darius Fountain. Unfortunately, like I said last week, Darius Fountain was somewhat in the preseason games, at least, was somewhat a product of his offensive line and Nate Sudfeld. We just didn't get to see his talent displayed because of those issues. Um, I guess I'll get into mine. So obviously, like you said, I've got the same three as locks. Obviously, they had Khalif Raymond out there a couple of times this preseason, and it was literally just to field punts, I believe, or maybe kickoffs. I don't know, but he's a lock. He's as much a lock as anybody else, I believe, is in that wide receiver room. St. Brown, obviously, no doubt. Jameson Williams, wide receiver too, going to have a big year, I believe, this year. So I also have them keeping Isaiah Williams. And now this is where I said we only kept three running backs, and that's because we're going to keep five wide receivers. So I named those four. The fifth one I can't name because he's not currently on the Detroit Lions. I believe they will go out and get somebody that's got somewhat of a bigger body. I'm not necessarily saying, kind of like you're saying with Terrace Marshall, not necessarily going to say they're going to go out and get, the prototype X receiver, but I do believe they will get somebody that they've seen on film somewhere else.
Okay, so that wraps up wide receiver talk. Probably going to be one of those heated debates. I think there's a few position groups where that's going to be a very, very hard thing to battle out and
Yeah,
decide
for
who's going to
sure.
make. The next one is going to be the tight end room. This one's not going to have a ton of controversy. So we've got Sam Laporta, James Mitchell, Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, and Parker Hesse and Sean McKeon. I don't know how you say his name.
McEwen.
McCune. Okay. So I think they keep three tight ends on the roster. Possibly add another to the practice squad off of these guys should they clear waivers. I'm seeing Sam Laporta, obvious starter. I think Brock Wright is the number two. I don't think you give a guy that kind of contract to match a 49ers offer sheet and not keep him on the
And then
team.
waive him. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
And then the third one is a battle. I think it's been up in the air between Shane Zylstra and James Mitchell a little bit, and I think Zylstra takes the edge there. So I think it's Laporta, Wright, Zylstra on the tight end roster, which would leave Hesse, Mitchell, and What was it again?
McEwen.
McCune off of the roster. The one note I will have there is I think they do really like Parker Hesse, and I think he would be the one that they would target for a practice squad, and possibly James Mitchell should he clear. I think he's got more of a chance of getting picked up by somebody though.
I want to. Um, I I kind of have pretty close to the same. Actually, I have the same as you, and I did struggle a lot with the Zylstra and Mitchell thing. I do want to point out that I knew all along that it would be Zylstra, but I'm just saying. Anyway, uh, I do want to say the Parker Hesse thing that is very interesting. And if I knew that Ben Johnson was the kind of guy that wanted a fullback, I believe we would be keeping Parker Hesse, and I believe he would be a tight end slash fullback type guy. Absolutely a beast. That's one of the guys, the sneaky guys that I'm upset to have to let go. I hope he ends up on the practice squad. I don't think he will. I think it'll be Mitchell. But really good camp out of him, I believe. And what I saw in preseason, he was pretty awesome. I just don't think he just doesn't have the same talent level as the other three we're keeping, and possibly even the fourth one being James Mitchell.
And I wouldn't rule out them keeping a fullback. I just think more than likely what's going to
It'll
happen
be a
is you're
lean.
going to see you're going to see like a linebacker or somebody step into that role because
Okay.
Kabinda back in the day was a linebacker. He was
Yes,
not a
that is
natural
right.
fullback.
That's
He
true.
moved to that position.
That's true.
So
That's true.
it's possible we just see them bring in a guy in certain situations, or maybe they use like a Zilstra
Well, I
or
mean,
a third tight end in
we,
that role.
I know you know this. We did, um, we had Rodrigo back there last year. I mean, he
Yeah,
did
no,
that.
that's
So
another possibility that I'll talk about later. But we're going to move on to the last position group on the offense, which is the offensive line. There are a lot of names here.
yeah.
So I'm just going to run down the list in no particular order. We've got Kingsley, and I'm sorry if I butcher it, but it's Iguakin or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Brian
that's a hard one.
Hudson, Frank Ragnow. There's Coyote Awasika, Jake Burton, Kevin Zeitler, Duke Clemens, Graham Glasgow, Giovanni Manu, Michael Nisi, Colby Sorsdahl, Taylor Decker, Panay Sewell, Dan Skipper, and Christian Mahogany. Mahogany is currently on the NFI list, but that is not going to affect him, and that, if anything, he would start on the pup if he's looking like he's not going to make it, but we'll see about that. Anyway, I have my starting or my keeps are obviously going to be Ragnow, Zeitler, Glasgow, Taylor Decker, and Panay Sewell. I don't think we need to talk about that at all.
Not a shocker.
That's what's going to happen. Those are the starting guys. Now, when you get to the depth there, that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. I think Awasika is one who's been there for a while, and he seems to always make the roster. He's got familiarity. I think he has done nothing to worsen his stock, so I think he makes it. Same thing with Dan Skipper. I think he makes it. I think Giovanni Manu makes it just as a developmental guy because they don't want to let him go and risk him moving on somewhere, someone else taking him, and you don't spend like a fourth round pick on a guy and then
I will say, with Manu, real quick, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to throw this out there because I was kind of busting his chops the first game. Game 1 to game 3, major improvements each game we saw. Major improvements.
And now that I can get back into my own talk because somebody else wants to take the highlight or
Anyway,
the
I
spotlight
wanted to
away from
say-
somebody in their own time, we've got Manu making it, and then I think Christian Mahogany makes it, and whatever that means for him. If he's on the pup list, that doesn't mean that we get a free roster spot because he's like an injured reserve type thing. He would just be on the 53 but be inactive for the first 4 games should that happen. I don't know. I think he makes it. I think he's good, but that's all that I have making it on the offensive line. I think Sorsdahl is the only one that I'm looking at that is like, should we keep, should we not? But his preseason has been so rocky, just not good, and I think that alone is going to possibly put him at a chance to clear waivers, and at that point he would make it back to the practice squad.
So basically what you're saying is this year they're keeping Mahogany over Sorsdahl. That's kind of your switch out there.
Yeah. I think Sorsdahl is that swing guard, or that's what he was
Yep.
used as last year. They moved him back to tackle, and he struggled this year at that position. So I don't know if it's because of he's been playing more tackle that he's struggling, but regardless, I just don't think he's done enough to make the team. And Mahogany is a young talent who's a natural guard, so I don't know why you wouldn't take it a natural guard over somebody who's transitioning from a different position.
Right, yeah, I get what you're saying there. So obviously same, Ragnow, Glasgow, Zeitler, Decker, Sewell, all shoe in. I think Awosika as a backup is about as sure thing as you can get for that one. Um, I'm gonna kind of shock again here. Obviously I have them keeping Manu as that developmental guy like you said. I don't think Dan Skipper makes it though. I I think that they're going to end up keeping uh some guys that they know they can move around a little bit. I think I think they're going to end up. Sorry, I got it on my phone. I keep losing it. Um, I do think they're going to get rid of Sorsdal as well. So I have them actually keeping Nice and Mahogany there. I think that they showed out better, and I just think Sorsdal is too much of a question mark. Skipper's a fan favorite. I love Dan Skipper. I just think that the Manu project kind of makes Skipper somewhat expendable in a way.
Now here's my question: Nice a tackle?
I believe he's a guard, and I know what you're going to say. That
Yeah.
shorts us a
I
tackle.
just think you need to have some depth at tackle because if somebody goes down,
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah,
you don't want to put a guard at the tackle spot.
that's why this is so difficult. I mean, I guess maybe we end up keeping Skipper. Obviously, that would be what saves him. Uh, Based on what I saw, I guess the one thing that is a for sure not making it, in my opinion, is Sorsdal. Sorsdal was struggling majorly. I don't know if you want to chalk that up to a sophomore slump after he did pretty well last year in games where he had to come in and fill in. But this year with the guys we have here and the young talent and the people we drafted, I just don't see Sorsdal being there.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna move on now to defense.
Okay.
That's all the offense that we've gotten through everybody. Defense, we'll start at the in the secondary. So we'll start at cornerback.
Okay.
We've got Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, Khalil Dorsey, Asong Bassi, Stephen Gilmore, Javelin Guidry, Emmanuel Mosley, Ennis Rakestraw, Amik Robertson, Kendall Vildor, and Rashad Wildgoose.
The wild goose chase is on
Keeping, I obviously have
until
Terry
Tuesday.
and Arnold, Carlton Davis, Amik Robertson, and Ennis Rakestraw. In that order, I think is the depth chart, the way it goes. Maybe Carlton Davis probably flips with Terry on, but we'll see. I think then you keep two depth guys.
I'll be clipping that. I said that a while back. You said I was an idiot, but anyway.
Well, I think Carlton Davis has the edge, and he's going to stay there for at least half the season. But I think Terry and Arnold can overtake him.
Yeah,
should
I
he
got you.
show out.
Okay.
I think then you've got room for two guys at the cornerback position to be depth pieces, and I think Kendall Vildor is a veteran who has shown a lot during training camp and in the preseason, enough to make this roster and be somebody they can rely on if should they need him. The last guy I have is Khalil Dorsey. I just think that the speed is something that you can't find very often at that position, and also he is a pretty darn good special teamer in any way you want to use him. He can return if you need him to, but also be out there and tackle some guys as well. Those are the only guys I have making it out of the quarterback position.
Okay. I am going to agree with you 100% on that. Carlton Davis, Terrion Arnold, in that order to start, and then it's going to change real quick. Uh, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw. Uh, I think those guys are going to flip flop a lot. I think they're going to kind of, spell each other, I guess. um, and then I've got Kendall Vildor and Khalil Dorsey. Same thing with Khalil Dorsey as a gunner on special teams. He is absolutely wild out there. Makes tackles, gets down there faster than anybody else. An absolute asset on special teams. Same with Jalen Reeves-Maben as a linebacker. But I think Khalil Dorsey makes it. Stephen Gilmore. A lot of people were saying that he had some decent games. Everything I saw from him, he had a lot of tackles this last game, but him in coverage was atrocious again. Couple big plays a couple big plays happened with him this last game, as well as a couple during the other games, and I just he got bailed out because the guy stepped out of bounds, but his coverage was really bad.
Yeah. I think we're gonna stay in the secondary. Obviously, we'll go to the safety room. I do have a bit of a surprise on this one. Just and I'll explain myself here, but I have us keeping actually. Let me count mine. One, two, three, four, five safeties.
Oh,
Um, and this is a move that shocked me, but after what happened in the preseason game, I think it's needed. So we've got Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph making it unquestionably, and Iffy is going to be in there as well. The question is, what is Iffy's status going to be? How serious was the injury he sustained? Is it serious enough to land him on pup and keep him out 4 weeks? If that's the case, then I think you need another safety. Other than Brandon Joseph, who I also have making the team, I think you need another depth guy in there or a special teamer, maybe if he's going to be a core special teamer. But a guy that Dan Campbell has glowed about as much as Jamar Jefferson has been Lauren Strickland. And I think he is going to end up making the team just as a depth piece, and he'll
wow.
move off. He'll move off the team once if he comes back. Should he come back, and then that leaves us with move to bring another guy on if we need to. It'll clear up a roster spot somewhere.
Wow, man, you're shocking me here.
Yeah, so
Wow,
I
I'm
think
shocked.
well, it's Lauren Strickland or it's going to be CJ Moore in that spot. And this is again a hypothetical based on the status of Iffy. I don't know what his status is. If they feel good about him coming back week 1 or somewhere before week 4, then I think that changes my mind a little bit. But at this point, with being unsure what the status is, I think you've got to keep at least 4 healthy on the roster.
Yeah, if he ends up on the pup list, obviously that changes things.
I think
So
CJ Moore could battle for that spot too, just because of the veteran status. But I don't think he has any leg up on any other guy other than a veteran status.
So let me go with that. Actually, that's what I'm going to say here. Is I've got Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch as absolute locks. Brandon Joseph, he played his way into a spot, and that's a no brainer for me. Absolutely. When we were there at training camp, absolute beast. Just plays crazy. Um, if if he is out, like you said, and we got to grab somebody else, I do have us obviously keeping him, but in place of that, I have them taking CJ Moore or keeping CJ Moore. And the reason I have that is exactly like you said. Yes, it's veteran presence, but we've also heard and known and seen that this front office and coaching staff like to keep the guys they know, and the guys that they can trust and believe in. And CJ Moore, who better to bet on themselves than CJ Moore? I had to throw that out there. No, I think obviously just because of the familiarity, I think he gets the leg up only because of that. Not talent wise or anything, they're all pretty even at that spot. So
I just think I would like to see this coaching staff stop playing the loyalty card. Sometimes
it is going to burn their ass one of these
I think the
days.
loyalty card
It is.
works best when you're
Riley
discussing
Patterson.
guys that you know their talent and they're going to be a starter. Then that's fine. Be loyal to those guys. But you've got guys that are fighting to be
Michael
depth
Badgley.
pieces. If they play better than someone else, then you should be keeping them. And I think Lauren Strickland has outplayed CJ Moore to this point.
I'm surprised they. I'm seriously with what we had going on. I'm not trying to go back to the offense, but you're talking about loyalty. I'm surprised we didn't give Cephas another shot. I really am.
Yeah.
I was
Well,
shocked by that. Anyway, all right, let's move on.
I think
Linebackers?
yeah, I think we'll go to linebackers, and I do want to put a note in there that I did list James Houston as a linebacker because that is what he's listed on their depth chart. But he will be a defensive lineman for the most part. So if you want to move him over there, just in case you put him on defensive line, we'll discuss him here.
All right, that's fine.
Okay, so we have Mitchell Agude, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Abraham Beauplan, Jack Campbell, James Houston, Joel, not even going to pronounce his name, Ben Neiman, Jalen Reeves-Maben, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Ty Summers. This position got a little more interesting this week.
We're blessed at linebacker.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about the guys. I'll list off my keeps. So the obvious ones are going to be Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes, and Jack Campbell, Jalen Reeves-Maben. All 4 of those guys will make the team.
Yep.
That leaves some room for some other guys, and because I have James Houston here, there's going to be 3 more linebackers I have making this roster for a total of 6. But James Houston will land on the defensive line, so we don't need to list of 6 linebackers. It'll be 5, in my opinion. I think we're going to keep Ben Neiman. I think he showed out, and he's a veteran guy. I think he's. I don't know why you wouldn't keep him. I think he's borderline made this a very uh, important preseason for Malcolm Rodriguez because I think he's very likely going to steal his spot on the roster. That being said, I do have Malcolm Rodriguez also making the roster. We did discuss before the show, though, that he does have injury concerns himself. Could land on the pup list. We don't know. I don't know. Did they officially move him yet? Do you know?
He has officially been moved off the pup list.
Oh, okay. So perfect. I have him making the team. I think his versatility lands him. He's a really good special teamer. And like we said, he can play fullback. He can do that for us. So his versatility has to land him on this team. I really battled between keeping him or Ty Summers, just because Ty Summers has been good in training camp and has made it very interesting this week with his performance. He showed his ability to get to the quarterback. He had led the team in sacks against the Steelers. It was an impressive outing for him. I don't think it's enough for him to make the team, though. And then obviously I have James Houston making the team. He'll be an edge rusher, but I just don't think you let a talent like James Houston walk out the door without it giving him one last chance at maintaining a healthy season. If he does that this year, then I'll be happy. If he doesn't, then I will be completely happy letting him walk if he shows that he can't stay healthy or be consistent.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is where we're gonna have trouble because I went linebacker and then defensive line, and I put those edge guys on the line.
Okay, so just keep
yeah,
James
it's
Houston
fine.
off of your list right now, and I'll move him into my defensive line, and I've already talked about him. So
Okay. I have Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Jalen Reeves, Maben as obvious, and then I kept Ben Neiman. That's as far as linebackers, not edge linebackers. Those are the ones that I kept.
So you have Rodrigo not making the team then.
I had Rodrigo on the pup list, and I was under the impression that would not count against us. If it happens where it's that does count against us, I believe we talked about
does.
that.
The pup list. You are still on the 53-man roster. It just means you cannot play for the first 4 weeks of the season.
Man, I'm gonna really struggle between him and Ben Neiman. I think what Ben Neiman brings to the table as a linebacker is more than Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo all around as a special teamer and everything else is stronger. So that's just going to be one of those.
So you make a decision right now. It's Neiman, though.
Yes, that's who I would go with. Yes.
Okay, that's fair. I think Abraham Beauplan showed out and had a good first game there in week 2 against the Chiefs. Ty Summers played well in that third preseason game, so there could be a sneak in there, a surprise, but I don't see it happening. I think Summers I have as a potential practice squad guy. And then I don't know, I can't remember which guy it is. I think one of these linebackers though is our international pathways player.
Okay.
So he'll take up a practice squad spot.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, Beauplan's definitely both Beauplan and Summers. Hopefully they clear waivers. We'll keep him.
I don't know about Beauplan. I don't know if they're going to keep him. I think they just gave him a chance. I don't know if he's going to be.
Okay.
Well,
he played really well, I will say. But yeah, anyway.
So the last position group we have to talk about is one of the most hefty ones, I will say, and no pun intended on the weight there.
Yeah.
But defensive line, all around, we'll talk edge, defensive end, and defensive tackles, whatever you want to classify them as.
Yep.
We have David Botta, Matthew Betts, John Kaminsky, who is technically still on the roster, but will likely be moved to an injured reserve, I would expect. He is not currently on the injured reserve, though. Is out for the season, of course, we know, with a torn MCL. Had a prognosis that he could make it back for the playoffs, but you would put him on the IR, I think, and then chance to bring him back after that 8-week period. You can bring, a certain number of people back or whatever it is. Anyway, Then you got Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson, Broderick Martin, Lee McNeil, Pat O'Connor, Levi Onzarike, Josh Pascal, Kyle Pecco, Chris Smith, Isaac Ukwu, Meki Wingo, and DJ Reader. We know DJ Reader, was he just activated off the pup list, or is he still there?
He was just activated off the pup list. Yes,
Okay.
he is active.
So we have him off the pup list. I'm going to go ahead with my keeps. I think there's obvious ones. So Aiden Hutchinson makes it by a mile. Lee McNeil makes it by a mile. DJ Reader makes it by a mile. Marcus Davenport will make it because he's a big free agency signing, and they're going to give him a chance here. I think Levi Onzarike has solidified his spot, which I can't believe we're saying after what we started off this off season talking about him. But
That's two.
He has shocked the world and looks great. The back isn't bothering him at all. Looks primed for a breakout season.
I need to just these guys that I like that are questionable. I need to just write them off so that like Zylstra and Levi.
You need to write them off and make sure they ain't right back.
Yeah, I ain't right back though.
So Broderick Martin, I have making the team as well. Josh Pascal, Meki Wingo, and Isaac Ukwu all making the team, which would leave Bada, Betts, O'Connor, Smith, and Pecco, the odd men, out. And then of course we'll group James Houston in with this group, like you said. So I think I'm not going to talk about the starters. We know what the starters bring. Levi O, we just discussed. Josh Pascal is a versatile man who can play any position on the line. Showed flashes last year of being able to rack up multi-sack performances. The question with him is, can he stay healthy a full season? We don't know, but I think it's worth keeping him around. Meki Wingo's a rookie who flashed at certain points in the preseason. I don't think it's worth releasing him or anything in risking him being picked up somewhere else. I just don't think that happens. Isaac Ukwu, you cannot let that man get away. He will get picked up by somebody else. He's consistently, I don't think he had a preseason game where he didn't record at least one sack. Showed the ability to strip the ball out of the quarterback's hands at different points. Obviously, we talked about that Steelers game. Wasn't really a strip sack, but we'll give it to him.
Just pure power.
But he did have one of those in the early season or somewhere else in one of those preseason games as well. So those are the guys I have making it, along with James Houston, of course, who I already talked about, and he did have a sack in this last preseason game as well.
Yeah, and those two feeding off each other, you're probably not going to really have them, barring any injuries, like you're saying, God forbid. You're probably not going to have them both on the line at the same time. But what does James Houston do in the game with the Steelers? They put him on the edge and he gets a sack. And that's just an automatic thing for him, it seems like. And then guess what? Ukwu does the same thing, comes around, absolutely overpowers the offensive lineman, pushes him into Bustin Fields, and causes a strip sack. I will say, giving James Houston credit, he is the one who essentially scared Justin Fields enough to where that strip sack happened on the backside. So,
I'm not sure that was Justin Fields that was in at that point. Was it?
I thought it was.
I think it was Kyle Allen who was in at that point.
Oh, okay, maybe it was. I don't know. So my defensive line, I have 12 spots left here for the defensive line. DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, Levi O is in there. We're keeping Broderick Martin, Meki Wingo, Hutch, obviously, Davenport. Same reason, like you said, Pascal is an absolute beast. Ukwu, Houston. That leaves 2 spots for me. I'm at 51.
Yeah, I had 10 on my defensive line total.
So my 2 spots. Oh, I wonder how that happened. Anyway, my 2 spots. I kept Agude, and I kept Pico or Pecco or whatever it is from the Titans.
Okay, I had Agude listed as a linebacker.
That's probably okay. That's why. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. My bad. So yeah, that's who I kept. Yeah, I kept. Is it Pecco, right?
Yeah.
All right, I kept him.
He
looked good.
I've heard Kyle Pecco. I will say this. I think Kyle Pecco would be a practice squad potential. I don't think he's going to get picked up by anybody necessarily, and he'd be a good veteran presence to have on that practice squad.
So with that being said, while you're saying that, I agree. If that happens, I would keep Malcolm Rodriguez.
Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I will say, I just want to say on my before we move into special teams, because there's not much to talk about special teams wise, really. I mean, we'll talk about it, but the practice squad, I have highlighted some guys that I think are the potential targets to bring back. I think there will also be guys that they go out and sign from other teams. Obviously, you got to fill out that entire thing, but I think Matthew Betts, Ty Summers, Stephen Gilmore, Zonovan Knight, Parker Hesse, Colby Sorsdahl, James Mitchell, Caden Davis, and Tom Kennedy are all guys that they will look at to try and bring back. I think Craig Reynolds is on there as well, but I think Craig Reynolds has potential to be picked up by another team if we let him go.
Yeah, I actually like that list, Brendan. Honestly, that I will say I'm going to throw out there if this doesn't work out where we find somebody else that's available as far as wide receiver, keep an eye on Caden Davis. Um, he's sneaky. Also, who did we get rid of that we drafted last year? Green? Was it Green that we got rid
Yeah,
of as a wide
Antoine
receiver?
Green, he was injured. I think we waived him with the injury settlement.
Guess who's still out there? And it sounds like he's rehabbed and ready to go.
Hmm.
I believe that's what I've seen on reports.
Who's
I'm not
that?
guaranteed. Antoine Green. I don't know if that's the case, but I think I saw that somewhere.
I mean, practice squad, yes. I don't think I'd put him back on the roster.
I'm just saying if we need a guy, a sneaky, possibly could get in there. Caden Davis is one of them. That's what I was getting at more than anything. I would just he had those big splash plays, and it's possible that he's the guy that they're looking for for those. However, I think he's doing what we hope Jameson Williams does in actual NFL games. So yeah,
So we'll move on to the final group here, and that's special teams. We don't need to spend too much time. We know punter's locked in at Jack Fox. It's not going anywhere. He's the best punter in the league, if not the best one of them. I think he's the best.
oh, he's the best. Yeah, I have no question there.
I think kicker Jake Bates. I know he went 1 for 2. He missed one, but he made one in a crucial situation at the end of the game. And I just think consistency is something that can be developed. I don't think talent is, and I think we need to keep him around at least for one trial run season or part of a season. If he struggles, I have no problem moving on. Getting someone else. I'd love to see him get a chance though, and we haven't brought anybody in to compete since Badgley went down, so I don't see us getting rid of him at this point.
I don't want to argue with you too much, but I do want to question what you just said. Consistency is something that can be developed. Why did we not do that with Patterson or Badgley then? I'm just saying they don't have the same leg as Bates. I know that, but do you, do you agree with what I'm trying to get at
Well,
there?
no. What I'm telling you though is the reason why Badgley is so inconsistent is because we kept putting him out there in situations that were out of his range.
Okay, I got
So
you.
that's why
Okay,
he was
okay,
inconsistent. And I think Riley Patterson I liked, but Riley Patterson didn't have the leg or the consistency.
I got you. Okay.
If you have one of those things, I think it makes you go further than the not having both.
So that's what you meant by talent, I guess, is that he's got the leg, he's got the distance. You're saying,
Yeah, and you've got to give him a
consistency
trial.
within
Like you
those
can't
ones.
get a talent like that at kicker and then just he missed a few kicks, so we're just gonna get rid of him.
Right, I got you. Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think in my opinion, knowing Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, if they had uh, extensive concerns about Jake Bates, then there would have been another kicker brought in to training camp to compete. I don't see why you wait until the end of training camp and then go get a free agent kicker. I don't understand that.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been said before, and I'm going to say it again right here, right now. It could possibly very well be the fact that when it comes to 53 people on the team, um, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell just don't care about kicker that much. I know that's kind of a joke, but it's, I don't know. It just seems like every year we have this kicker thing, and I believe in Jake Bates. I think, like you said, he's got the leg. He can be taught the consistency. He's had a very short camp, obviously, very short NFL stint, but I think we keep him. It's just funny because it's a running joke.
One note I want to make is there was another kicker who notoriously was not great consistent wise, but nailed big kicks when you needed him to, long kicks when you needed him to, and that was none other than Matt Prater.
Yeah, I can't argue there.
So I don't
I
sometimes
thought you were
you
gonna say Kickalicious.
sometimes you have to offset it and understand that you're not going to get 100% great kicker every single time. The Cowboys got Brandon Aubrey, who seems to be good. Justin Tucker is a different beast there, but you're not going to find those guys all the time. Like you're just not going to.
Yeah, I agree. So to say the same thing, obviously, did you say long snapper?
Yeah, we're gonna finish with long
Okay.
snapper, and that's the only point of controversy really on special teams because we've got two long snappers. We do, and
Is it really controversy
yes,
though?
because we have Scott Daly and Hogan Hatton, and Scott Daly has been the usual long snapper, but in this situation, I don't have him making the team. I have Hogan Hatton taking it because Hogan Hatton has versatility that Scott Daly doesn't. Scott Daly is a specialist only on long snap. Hogan Hatton can do some other things. He's shown the sorry, the ability to be something other than a long snapper, and I think that gives him an edge as well as being younger.
You almost said perplexity, and I think it's because you were looking at my face. I cannot believe you said that. Hogan Hatton is gone. Jake Bates is in. Jack Fox is in. Scott Daly's in. I will give you the fact that obviously this coaching staff likes those guys that are versatile, so I will give you one up there for sure. But I did originally have Scott Daly. Um, if for some reason, although we did see Malbach out there as a coach, so if we need him,
You're an idiot. So
it's Scott Daly, in my opinion.
we'll finish it off. I'm just gonna name. We have some injured reserve guys that are still out there, just so we know. Badgley is still technically on this team. He is injured reserve. Malik Jefferson, Nate Lynn, Netane Mutai, Traquan Smith are all on the injured reserve. I think more than one of those guys will end up getting waived with an injury settlement. Um,
Traquan Smith.
yeah, I just don't see them coming back. Netane Mutai is one I think we keep. He showed promise as an offensive lineman, and I think John Kaminsky will be moved to injured reserve, obviously. So that's all I have, though. That's everyone I have making it. I already listed some of the special or the practice squad players I think make it, but I think keep your eye out for a wide receiver move to happen over the next few days. We know Tuesday at what was it 4?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock Tuesday is the deadline for everyone to cut down to the 53-man number.
Yeah, and we are recording this right now. It's about 20 after 7 Eastern time on Sunday. We will get this out to you Monday morning. Justin Rogers, while we're doing this, did just say no moves for the Detroit Lions except for DJ Reader being moved off the PUP list today. So it sounds like close of business has happened. And by the time you get this, there might be a couple moves, but it would be early Monday morning.
And we need to note that most teams are going to wait up until the deadline to do that. They're having deliberations over these next 3 days or whatever. They're nonstop talking and going through and listing situations and what could happen if this happens and that happens, and it'll be down to the wire until we find out the 53 for sure.
All right, so before we close this, man, my mic's going crazy. Before we close this up, I want to ask you real quick: do you see any trades happening?
We already talked about this. If it's going to happen, it's going to be a wide receiver. I don't see us making any other move.
All right, I just wasn't sure if you had anything else that you saw as a sneaky trade or anything that was coming in.
No, I think we're
that's
so
all.
talented everywhere else that we really don't need to make moves. I don't think it's necessary. The only thing I would say is if somehow they decide Jake Bates isn't the one and there's a kicker they like, maybe they do that. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Jake Bates is the guy for the foreseeable future. I think wide receiver is the one spot to keep an eye on in trades. I think they need to add a fifth receiver at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I believe in Jake Bates. I think he's going to be good. I think it's going to take some time and it's going to take some patience from the Lions fan base, and hopefully you guys give him a little bit of leeway there. He's going to miss kicks. It's going to happen. Hopefully he's shown that he's got ice in his veins and he can make the big ones though.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it for us. We've talked about everything we need to. It was going to be a quicker show anyway today. So
if this is your first time watching us, don't judge us based on being outside. Like Brendan said at the start of the show, it was super sunny out here, super warm, and we wanted to take advantage of it. Plus, I feel like my jersey looks really good out here in the sun.
Yeah, he got a new jersey in case you didn't know.
I had to point it out.
Yep. All right. That is it for us Lions fans. Hope you have a great week. Don't cry too much if your favorite player ends up being cut. It happens.
He was looking at me and talking to me as he said it.
But we will sign off, and we wish you all a happy cut day, I guess.
Happy rest week.
Yeah. Without further ado, go Lions.
Go Lions, baby.